It's Liam Alexander-Stewart from Inside the Ropes here, and I'm joined again with a fantastic guest. Following on from our chat with Ring of Honor's COO Joe Koff, I'm joined by another fantastic Ring of Honor guest today. We've got none other than the Mama Bear of Ring of Honor, the one of women's wrestling's pioneers in modern driving forces. It's none other than Maria Kanellis-Bennett. Maria, how are you doing today?
I'm marvelous. How are you?
I'm great. We had a little bit of a chat off camera just about, lovely Scottish weather and the Scottish accent. So, I'm trying to keep whenever I'm on video, I try to keep the accent slowed down and keep it organized, because I tell you what, if there's a list of accents that people struggle with on the internet, it's like very sort of south of America and Scottish. So it's always interesting, the comments on the YouTube videos, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, and then, so my husband's from outside of Boston. So I don't know if you know much about the Boston accent, but holy cow. If he gets going with his buddies, it's ridiculous. I can understand him, but there are words they use like the packy, which is actually like a liquor store. So they'll throw in terms like that, and I have no idea what they're talking about. So yes, accents are funny though, because you could literally live down the road a half hour from somebody and be like, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
There's,
Yeah.
especially with sort of when people are with their friends from like where they grew up, especially, people moving around a lot. I was going to say nowadays, before COVID. And, you're sitting down and you maybe go back to visit people in your old town and you're like, oh, find yourself switching into an accent you've not talked about in
Oh yeah.
like
Yeah.
10 years. Oh.
Uh-huh.
But like I said, we're going to talk about Ring of Honor today, the fantastic programming and products Ring of Honor have been putting on. In particular, we're going to talk a little bit about the Women's Championship tournament and the exciting stuff coming out of that. Back in March, you made the incredible announcement that ROH would be crowning its first Ring of Honor Women's World Champion, the process of a 2021 Summer Championship tournament. What was the process like of sort of coming up with the idea to do the tournament, to move the women's division in this new direction, and how exciting was it for you to be a part of that and to make that announcement and to really drive that moving forward on sort of the social space?
So last year, when I was released from WWE, I had just had my son. So I wasn't exactly sure if I would even be involved in wrestling and what capacity, because nobody understood COVID at the time. So we didn't know if it was going to be this thing where we were stuck in our house for the rest of our lives or what was going to happen. So, and I'm sure for some people, it definitely feels that way already. But for our family, Mike was going to start working more and more on the road last year, and I was going to stay back with the kids. And so when he came home, he would take COVID tests and then quarantine and then come back to me and the two very young children. And as the summer kind of moved on and we started to understand what was going on, Ring of Honor reached out to me and I reached out to Ring of Honor, and we basically had the same idea. We wanted to bring back the women's division. And I wanted to move into more of an executive side, kind of the mama bear, human resources kind of aspect of women's wrestling. And they wanted the exact same thing. So for us, it was a really easy transition. Like they knew like I was on this path and I knew this is what I wanted to do. So they had already announced that they were going to have a tournament last year and they weren't able to do it because of COVID. And then things got weird because, nobody knew when touring was going to happen. So things just kept getting pushed off. And so finally, in January of this year, Ring of Honor started filming women's matches again. And when we started doing that, we really didn't know where these matches were going to go and how it was going to kind of evolve into a tournament and into a brand new women's division. But along the way, me and my partners, we all asked, like, can we put this on YouTube so everybody can get to know these new stars? Because this is where their fan bases already are. Like everybody talks about, oh, it was the Attitude Era. Oh, it was the era of this. Oh, no, this is the social media, YouTube streaming era of wrestling. Like it's not a WWE era. It's not necessarily like a AEW or a Impact, a Ring of Honor era. It is a streaming era. So where people can watch the wrestling, that's where they watch it. So putting it on YouTube has been tremendous. Some of these women have millions of views of their matches for Beyond Wrestling, for Reality of Wrestling, wherever they work. So putting it on there was easy transition. And now where we've almost got all of our competitors announced for the tournament. It's a great group of women, a diverse group. We have a mom, we've got, people from all over the country. Unfortunately, not all over the world. We could not get that approved, like as much as we wanted to, like not possible in this era of wrestling right now. So yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's been just a great, like everything kind of came together very easy. So crossing my fingers that it'll keep going that way.
Definitely, fingers crossed. You mentioned there, the incredibly diverse and talented pool of women that we've seen announced so far, and tying that in with sort of the idea of sort of the social media age of wrestling, and some of these performers might not have been too familiar to sort of fans who haven't seen them before. Is there anyone in the tournament so far that really stands out to you as someone you're super excited for the fans to get to see that they might not have seen a lot of?
So since I'm on the board of directors, I can't give any favorites, but what I can say is the Trish Adora, Miranda Alizé, Roxy, Willow's incredibly exciting to watch, Alex Gracia. I'm sure I'm missing people, but these are the women that have worked their tails off during the time of COVID to keep relevant. And Maserati, another one, she's the FSW champion right now. These women have worked really hard to build themselves up. So when we were putting this all together, we didn't just want one style of wrestling, and we didn't want just one era of wrestling. So it all came together. So I can't say, because I'm very, diplomatic about this. But I do have to say that there's a lot of women to look out for in this tournament.
You mentioned there, you've mentioned some sort of promotions beyond things like that. And we've heard previously that part of your job role kind of includes looking around sort of other promotions, training schools, seeing who sort of that next generation of talent is that you can get into Ring of Honor, help get that exposure and help grow within the brand. Obviously with COVID over the last 18 months, it's been a lot harder to do things like that. How have you kind of adjusted to that? And also just how exciting is it, that process of bringing someone in, developing them and seeing them grow as a star?
So it's interesting because you would think, because not as many places were running, there wouldn't be as much talent. But because the field has narrowed, everyone has worked really hard to get better. And so actually the ones that are working are all very good. So we have 15 in the tournament because of Angelina's bye. And I could have had 32. And unfortunately, that's just not possible. We're still coming out of the COVID protocols and everything. You can't have that many people. So, even though it might seem like it would be hard to find women, no, and everybody's attitude is different now. This old school mentality, okay, fine, it has its place. It really does. I respect all the people that came before me. I do. But we are in the social media era, and everything ends up online. Everything. There have been times where I've been going to a show and I'm in the airport and maybe I'm looking a little rough and I'm like, oh no, that's online too. Everything ends up online. So everyone has had to become more businesslike and less catty. And all of these women are business women.
I think it speaks volumes the way you sort of talk about the social media area, and from my chat earlier with Joe, that Ring of Honor really understands the direction that wrestling is moving. And I think it's so important because you do see a lot of promotions kind of tied down to, talking about TV ratings and who drew more on sort of what day. And, we're in the sort of time now where people watch a lot of stuff and they will watch multiple things, and Ring of Honor has always benefited from having that really loyal fan base. And I think it's clear to see from your social media interactions on Twitter, Ring of Honor as a brand, that you guys really care about your fans, and you've talked about that before. One thing I wanted to ask about though was sort of how you would compare sort of the way that women's wrestling is viewed nowadays to how it has been previously, because we've seen recently the likes of Lana, who's just been released from the WWE, come out and say that in her time with the company, she was made to feel like women's wrestling wasn't as important as men's. With Ring of Honor, there never seems to, at least recently, have been that sentiment shared by any of the performers. Is that something Ring of Honor and yourself is kind of really looking at? Let's make sure that everyone feels valued, or is it just something that's happened organically because maybe you have more female involvement and things of the sort?
So I didn't see what Lana had said on social media or wherever she said it. But what I can say is WWE has their favorites, and then everybody else kind of falls away. And you're there as a supporting character, and you're just kind of on standby, which is a really hard place to be. And so in women's wrestling, there's even more of that. Because women draw viewers. It's always been that way internationally. Like numbers from internationally is like so huge. So, and women draw those numbers in, especially women's wrestling draws those numbers in from India, from China, from the Middle East. Like we happen to get the numbers. From Europe, from Japan, like it's incredible. So WWE and places like that need women, and we need to make sure that we have the women that are popular at that time. But they're not always spotlit. So that's like a different beast. For Ring of Honor, the locker room has always been fantastic. I've always felt like I trust the locker room to take care of me. Whether or not I'm having a good day, a bad day, I need a little bit of time with my family or whatever. Like I trust the locker room to be there for me. I will spend hours talking to Mark Briscoe about diapers, and like it's a fantastic, real atmosphere. And so I've never felt degraded by that locker room because I'm a woman or a mother or whatever. I've also always felt empowered. So for me, one of the first times I was able to really get creative as a woman in this industry was when I entered the Ring of Honor locker room. And I was able to just cut my promos. Like I didn't have to ask. Like they were just like, go, enjoy, have fun. And I was like, what? And like you tiptoe out there and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then you do it. And then everybody's patting you on the back afterwards. And the Ring of Honor locker room is excited that you went out there and cut this promo on the fly or whatever you had in your brain or whatever. Like they're excited for you. The fans are excited for you. Everybody's on this journey together. So when me and my team were putting this group of women together, it was that team atmosphere. It's important. You have to have people that are going to share little tidbits of like, hey, maybe you should try this on your social media, or hey, I saw that move you did. Maybe if you did it this way, it would be more impactful. But it's also that like, oh crap, I had a crappy day. Like, can you help build me up? Or like, and stuff that you're going to see in Women's Division Wednesday, like you're going to see that building of people, that team atmosphere. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think for Ring of Honor, it's just an environment of trust and respect.
I think that's really positive to hear. I think especially, like I mentioned, there's never really been any discussion on social media of anyone have any issues with Ring of Honor in the sort of the locker room. It always seems to be that really strong togetherness. And I think as a fan, it's always nice to see that because, especially when you read about sort of wrestling in the past, you mentioned the Attitude Era, stuff like that. It was that very cattish, as you called it earlier, attitude while the performers. So hearing of talent sharing and bouncing ideas and actually growing together is always really pleasant to hear about as a fan.
I believe you can fight to be the very best and not be an asshole. Like I think you can. I think it is possible. And I think you can believe that you are the very best wrestler in the world and still not be a dick about it. So, that's important, especially in this era that we're in right now, where everything gets blown up.
I think that's an incredible, not just mantra within wrestling to live by, but whatever place you work, be it, flipping burgers or working in a bank, you can be the best you can without being a dick. I think that is great advice. I think when
I was a bus girl, that was my first job. I was a bus girl. I used to bus tables. I was 14 working in my second uncle's restaurant and bus tables. But I wanted to do the very best. That was my uncle's family business. He was straight off the boat from Greece. Like he came in, like I wanted to work hard, but that didn't mean I had to be a jerk about
it. So fans haven't seen you in the ring since 2019, and you kind of talked about this a lot and said that you are probably done in ring. The one thing I just wanted to ask you about that is kind of how difficult that transition has been in terms of fully taking a step back and just being like, I want to help the future develop. Because I just wonder if there's ever been that itch when you're sat watching these talents grow and gone, really want to get in the ring with them, or if you're just like fully committed now to, I'd like this role, this is my role, and I'm comfortable with it.
So, I knew I was done wrestling at my last WrestleMania. I knew. I walked out there and I went, nope, want to go back. I knew I wasn't done with the wrestling industry. I just was done with wrestling. Like I didn't want to go out there and put on a match, and who knows, never say never. Like we all as wrestlers are like, that's the last match. And then we have 15 more. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to say is like, I don't feel the same way about it as I used to. When I went out there for my last match at WrestleMania, literally got out there and looked around and went, yeah, I just want to get back to my baby girl. Because my daughter was backstage. I just wanted to get back to her. And, that's really how I feel about my wrestling right now is I just know there's things bigger than me and my own personal stuff that I want to witness. I want to see women grow. I want to see this industry change. I want more people to have my job as a woman in other companies. And so that's what I'm fighting for. I don't need to go out there and duke it out in the ring because I have many, many fights that I'm doing behind the scenes every day. Not within Ring of Honor, but just in the world and getting people to understand and have an appreciation for women's wrestling.
I think it's a great fight that you're fighting. I think it's one that fans around the world, women around the world really appreciate. I wanted to end by asking your opinions on comments that we heard recently from Triple H following a WWE press conference, because he came out and, to paraphrase, said something along the lines of, all the best women wrestlers in the planet are currently in NXT or want to be in NXT. And we've heard from Mickie James, who you know well, and general social media in general sort of backlash from this as a mindset that's harmful to the development of women's wrestling. I was just wondering if you'd heard of those comments, what sort of your reaction was, and what you think of that mindset in terms of how that affects the performers of women's performers who aren't in the WWE or don't want to be in the WWE.
So I think of course Triple H has to say something like that. He has to say that everybody wants to be in WWE because that is where he works. And that's what's required. But I think if he were honest with himself, he would realize that they aren't the only place to work anymore. And for a lot of people, they're not even the place that they want to work. I've heard a lot of women comment to me. I have a couple within Ring of Honor right now that are under contract with us that were made offers. They turned them down. So, and of course, like, I'm not going to go on some tirade about that, because I don't think it has any value. I think that women in general, we all have communications about how things are going, how much we're getting paid, and how well we're treated. And so, because of that community of women, the Women's Wrestling Coalition, as I like to call it, we have this underground network of boosting each other up, and women's wrestling matters, and women want to do a really good job with the wrestling part of women's wrestling. So I think anywhere could have the best wrestler in the world. It doesn't matter if it's going to be in Ring of Honor, AEW, Impact, WWE, could be over in Japan or China or over in the UK or anywhere in Europe. It's possible that any one of these places has the very best women's wrestler in the world. It's just a matter of who that person is, not what company they work for. And I hope that, over the next few months, we're able to see a couple of those women in Ring of Honor. But if not, it is something to work towards. I mean, I would have loved to get Thunder Rosa for our tournament because I think she's incredible. I would have loved to have Lufisto. I would have loved to bring a few girls in from Japan, because there are great wrestlers everywhere, and not all of them want to work for WWE. And, after being there twice myself, I have to say that some of my most memorable moments in this industry had nothing to do with the big Stamford, Connecticut company. And it had everything to do with the people I was working with and the way that I felt working there.
I think if you can't tell from the chat today, the passion in your voice, the passion in Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor's women's division is an exciting watch for anyone. The women's tournament is going to be stellar when it happens. I can't implore listeners, readers to check it out more. It's going to be incredible. And even, the wrestling that's being done now, some of the stuff we're seeing is phenomenal. So make sure to check it out. You guys...
I mean, you can check out all these women on Women's Division Wednesday. Every Wednesday night, we have a brand new episode, brand new match. And you can see the last few women that are going to make it into this Quest for Gold tournament. So, we're really excited about it, and so are the women.
Perfect. Well, I think that is the perfect place to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time, Maria. You've been a pleasure to chat with, so full of energy, so happy and excited. And, it makes for a great interview for us. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see what Ring of Honor have coming.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.